Longbox Review, Episode 30. Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com.
And this is Travis from Oddfellow's Thoughts on the YouTube channel.
And Travis, welcome back. I'm glad to be talking with you again. It seems like forever since you and I got together over the Skype and talk comics.
Yeah, it has been quite a while, hasn't it?
Been at least a few episodes. So we were supposed to get together with our buddy Greg and talk about the Avengers movie, and that didn't work out for various reasons.
Right.
And then I did a couple episodes with Peter Rios talking about some stuff and just scheduling. I went on vacation. You've been super busy at your job, I know.
Yep.
And
damn work.
Yeah. I know. When we need to find jobs, Travis, where we can read comics and talk about comics, and we get paid for it. And
for real.
And in a manner at which we're accustomed to being paid.
Yeah.
Which I'll tell you right now is not going to happen in my case.
Yeah, so far I'm fairly confident that my opinion is not worth that. So.
Well, if that's true, then Travis, then my opinion is certainly not worth how much I get paid. So, so let's move on from that. Let's get away from that altogether.
Yes.
Let's see. On today's show, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. We're going to talk about some Comic-Con news that I found interesting, and Travis may have some things to throw in there as well. And a long time coming, but I'm glad we did this. It kind of happened this way. I intended to talk about the second wave coming out of DC Comics when they first came out, but it's kind of nice, and maybe we'll do this from now on, Travis, when we get together and talk about these particular new comics coming out. We have up to issue 3 in most cases for that second wave, and it's kind of nice to have that perspective, having read the first and second and third issues, to kind of formalize your thoughts about it, get a sense of where the comic is going, because the first issue you don't always have that. I mean, it's the first issue is sometimes kind of like a pilot for a TV show, where they give you all the characters and they give you the basic premise of it, but then once the TV show gets greenlit for production, a lot of things can be happening behind the scenes and things change, but by the time you get to the what is technically the second episode.
Sure.
And while comics aren't quite like that, based on my experience reading them, it sometimes can happen that way. A new artist can come in to do issue number 2 or issue number 3 or whatever, and that always throws or not throws it. It just kind of changes things, or can change things. So it's kind of nice to see how these titles are going as we progress through them. So we'll talk about those, and then we're going to talk about some other comics that aren't DC down the road, and maybe even a couple that between the two of us, one of us has not read this comic and the other has. So we'll talk about those. And I'm actually really excited about that, because there's one comic I want to talk about, Travis, that is like my favorite thing right now. So I can't wait to get to that. Let's see. Let's start off. Travis, I did see your video about the San Diego Comic-Con fatigue, I think is how you put it.
Yes.
All that.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, I know. That was a great line, by the way. So, but we're going to talk about some of these things that I thought were interesting. And Travis, if there's anything on that I'm not throwing out here that you think we should talk about, let's certainly do that.
Sure.
And actually, I say we're going to talk about Comic-Con news, but the first thing I want to talk about was actually announced before Comic-Con, and that's the Marvel Now initiative.
Yep.
So beginning in October, Marvel, I'm reading from the Marvel website here, the press release for this thing. So beginning in October, Marvel starts a, quote, bold new chapter in its history with Marvel Now, a publishing initiative extending into the following year that will touch every major Marvel character from the Avengers to the X-Men to Spider-Man to the Fantastic Four and beyond. And so basically what they're doing is they're going to
52 what?
Would you care to expand on that, Travis?
On the 52 what? Well, come on. We know why they're doing this. They're doing this because when DC relaunched their 52, it basically kicked Marvel's ass. And they realized, oh crap, we need to make some more money and put ourselves back on top. And how do we do that? We do that by basically redoing everything. And I'm not saying redo like DC is as far as completely relaunching, completely rebooting their entire line. But they're certainly relaunching pretty much everything. Yeah, they're gonna get all those nice, sparkly, special number ones out there because number ones sell a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. But
even some of these titles haven't been around that long, and they're gonna redo them. I don't know.
But they were very specific in the press release. No, this is not a reboot. They're not going to do what DC did. This is just continuing on with the Marvel universe as they have been. But they're going to get together these creators and kind of
completely change the teams and completely, yeah,
exactly.
But it's not the same books though. I mean,
right.
They're not throwing the universe out the door, but they're still completely changing all these books. They're not going on business as usual. So I think that's misleading to say, oh no, we're not changing nothing, but we're changing everything.
Well, it's interesting. Are they really going to be changing everything? My sense is they're not. They're only going to be changing certain titles, certain creative teams, and see where that goes. I didn't get the sense, though, that they were really trying to change everything about their line.
Well, I don't know. They put all these pictures where everybody's in different costumes.
Sure.
The costumes they're wearing currently. Obviously, when you change complete creative teams, that's going to change the voice of everybody, right? And everybody, a lot of these guys are in different teams now. They've shuffled not just the creative teams, but who's doing what the characters are doing are completely changing.
So, for example, we have, I think the first one that's coming out is the Uncanny Avengers.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, they throw on...
which can obviously is a direct, two things. It's a direct result of whatever ended up happening with the whole silly, Avengers versus X-Men thing. And let's make a book that has the two biggest selling franchises put together.
Mm-hmm. Why haven't they done this before?
Because they're dumb. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they're...
Because before they like to have them kind of in their own worlds, but in the same world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But over the last couple of years, it seems to me like they've kind of, because they've got so many X-Men in the Avengers anyway, that it just seemed like a no-brainer at this point to, well, why don't we just truly make a book that is that?
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, that's one of the books that actually sounds like it might be interesting.
Well, and it's going to be written by Rick Remender and drawn by John Cassaday. So
yeah,
those are two pretty good creators there on their what I'll call their flagship book for this initiative. So I'm really interested in it. I kind of like this whole idea of coming out of the Avengers versus X-Men thing, that they I'm assuming that someone has the brilliant idea, hey, we should really be working together, and some of the characters will agree with that, and then we'll see what happens with them. So I kind of like the idea, and I'm excited to see where that takes us. But yeah, obviously, I think perhaps the jaded of us, the ones who've been around for a while, this is a direct result of things that have happened in the last year with their competition, and they're probably so DC did that whole relaunch thing because the dwindling market share, right? So they wanted to try to bring in more people outside of the core readers like us, right? So Marvel, I think, eventually realized, yeah, we got to do this too. We got to bring in fresh blood. We got to bring in new readers and keep them, and this is one way they're going to do it. So I don't begrudge them for doing it. I think whatever the comic publishers have to do to get new people to come in and support the books and keep the comics publishing, go for it. I don't care.
Well, I don't fault them for that. I fault them for misrepresenting what they're doing. To me, it feels, and maybe that's me just being extra cynical, but it feels to me like they're misrepresenting what they're doing. Whereas DC said, hey, look, we're doing this because we need to try and draw in more people. We need, as a business, need to fundamentally change what we're doing and our approaches to stuff and whatnot. And Marvel isn't saying that. They're I don't know. To me, it feels like they're trying to sell it as something that it's not. Different than what, to me, it feels like the reality of why they're doing it is.
Okay, yeah, I can see your point there. I mean, obviously they don't want to be seen as followers by rebooting their line like DC did, so they can't do that. Okay, so apart from that, Travis, so you said you were interested in the Uncanny Avengers. What do you think of the other titles that they've been talking about? So all new X-Men, new Avengers.
All new X-Men. Let's just start there. Is that not the silliest title? All new X-Men? Seriously? Who are the X-Men going to be? It's the original X-Men. That's not all new X-Men. That's the freaking old X-Men. Is it not? To me, that's just so absurd. I heard that and I'm like, all new X-Men? Really? Oh, so we're going to get a whole new team? Hell no. We're gonna time travel the people from the very beginning when the X-Men first started. We're gonna plant them here. That's not new X-Men. That's old X-Men, right? I don't know. I am so, and I'm so not into that title. There are potentially some interesting stories or some interesting commentary you could make about comic books with that storyline, because it's what these guys moving forward, seeing what they themselves and the X-Men have done and where they're at, and not liking it. So I think you could tell some really curious stories about a commentary on comic books for the last 15, 20 years if you wanted to, because of the way the X-Men have evolved into what they've evolved to. So I think you could maybe make some interesting comments there, but otherwise that story doesn't interest me at all. I don't know, and I think it's ridiculous to go, oh look, see, we're bringing Jean Grey back, but we didn't resurrect her. Oh come on, whatever. I don't know, that title. There's all kinds of things wrong with that title as far as I'm concerned, and have zero interest in it. And, I mean, unless I hear other people talking about it, and they start telling me that Bendis is using it to, like I said, make some sort of commentary maybe on the X-Men stories of the past in some fashion, that might be interesting. Otherwise, having these people who have shot forward to the future and can't go back, I have no interest in that, because that just, to me, sounds like a mess.
Yeah, but I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like Brian Michael Bendis in general.
I don't have an issue with him.
Yeah, and neither do I. I mean, there are certain aspects of what he does that kind of gets repetitive and bugs me. But overall, I think he's a damn good writer. And I've enjoyed his runs on Daredevil and the Avengers books for years now. So I kind of have a certain amount of trust in his ability to do this. So for him to move off of the Avengers onto the X-Men, I may just follow him onto that. So that, from that perspective, that's a good move by Marvel to do that. And then to have Jonathan Hickman on the main Avengers title.
Yeah. Now, I would be all over that if that wasn't going to be a $4 book that ships twice a month.
Yeah. I have to. You're right. I have to think about that because of the double shipping and the price. But
and granted, I'm not getting his stuff now. I'm not getting the Fantastic Four, but I just keep hearing from everybody. I mean, you and everybody else about how it's just been so enjoyable, and that's been a great creative team and whatnot. So when I first heard about it, I was kind of excited to think, okay, well, I used to collect Avengers back in the day. This might be the time to get on it. And they were talking about the fact they're going to use this huge cast, have a few core people and really truly cycle through this huge, cast of characters. I'm like, yay, this might be the book, but it doesn't matter how good the book is for me. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. I'm not going for the $4 book
Twice a month.
I'll occasionally swallow the $4 book. I mean, because I do have some, I do buy some, but I'm not doing it twice a month.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spend my money on that to, let Marvel think that that's an okay business model, because I think this model sucks.
Yeah, I agree
So
with that. But at the same time,
if it's good, I may go buy it in the trade when it's not going to be as cost prohibitive as what that is.
That's true. That's probably a good idea. I was gonna say I probably will get it, at least for the first arc, just to see how it is. Like I said, because I really love Hickman, and you've got some pretty good artists on there, helping out for the twice a month thing. But you're right. Yeah, twice a month is that's just too much. But anyway, before we move on away from Marvel now, one more thing. The one thing I wanted to comment on about this was that I really appreciate that Marvel is not, launching all these books all at once.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think we had talked about that when DC did their New 52, because they just threw all those 52 at us all at once.
Right.
And that was kind of a hit, in the pocketbook, but Marvel at least is not doing that. So I do appreciate that initiative. I'm glad that they're doing it that way. But yeah, there are some issues with this, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I said one last thing, but here's the really last thing. The one thing that I found really interesting about this press release was that they're talking about the the change to some of the status quos, and the costume designs, and they want to artistically they kind of want to pump it up a notch, or bump it up a notch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at some of the potential cover images for these, and I'm thinking, really, that's bumping it up a notch? A bunch of characters on the page. That's it. That's how you're how you're putting your best foot forward. I don't see it.
Yeah. I doubt those are actually going to be covers.
I'm sure
those are just that's the I'm sure to some degree the quick mock-up they did to make sure they had it all ready in time to splash something up on a big screen at San Diego Con.
But still,
yeah,
they're talking about different or coming at the art differently and making it better and more enticing and all that stuff. And this is the image they give us.
Yeah.
That
image has got a whole bunch of different characters on it. It's got a mix of just things across the universe. There's all kinds of stuff about that that's just, I don't know. To some degree, I still stick with in a lot of cases, people's costumes, the classic costume is classic for a reason. It's been around for 20, 30 years for a reason. Mm-hmm. And monkeying with it to try and make it cool and fresh is just, no one buys it. Not really. I mean, we buy the comic, but nobody really buys it as being, oh, this is just the best thing or whatever. I mean, it's, small little subtle changes are one thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of those changes. I think it's silly. You look like that picture of the Hulk where it looks like he's almost like he's wearing armor of some sort. Why the hell is the Hulk wearing armor? Seriously.
Yeah. And like,
I understand maybe why he isn't still running around and he's torn up pants, because that's kind of silly too. But
hey, it's classic.
But right, it is, and so that's why it's fine. That's why I don't have a problem with it. But having him run on armor, the guy is freaking invulnerable. Yeah. Why the hell is he wearing armor?
Yeah. Well, maybe he's not going to be as invulnerable as he once was.
Really?
Who knows?
I don't read the book, so I assume from watching the movie he's invulnerable.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
That image has got all kinds of stuff in it that you look at it and you go, oh, why are they changing these people's stuff the way they're changing? It just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
All right. Well, let's move on then.
But I had the same beefs with DC when they relaunched them and changed a bunch of their costumes.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's like
they didn't need to do that. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, okay. Let's actually get to some Comic-Con news. So the first thing that the other day when I was like catching up on all the Comic-Con news, and I was okay, I'm going to make a list here because I want to talk about some of these things. The very first thing I wrote down was the Sandman prequel announcement.
Yo, yeah.
Are you excited about that one, Travis?
Oh yes.
Really?
And with who's going to be on art? Yeah, I'm okay with this. You know, I mean, back in the day, I had a beef with the fact that and this is silly. This is silly. It's one of those silly things that Gaiman said that run was going to go 50 issues, and then of course he milked it out for another 25, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I know, whatever. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you how I looked at it back then. I know. Now I look at it and I go, well, I was a dumbass, but whatever. I'm not saying that's. I'm just saying that's how I felt at the time. At collecting it and whatnot, I was like, oh man, you know, I thought he was going to stick to his guns. That, you know, it was 50 issues. That's what he had to tell. Whatever, you know, and then didn't. But anyway, no, this is going back to tell something. I mean, I think he's genuine in saying, I'm going to go. This is a story I wanted to tell and I didn't get it in, and I want to tell it. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. I'm excited about what was he up to. What was he up to that he was running around wearing the mask and they had the, you know, the gem and all that kind of silliness? What was he up to that, you know, when he got stuck? That'll be it. And with J.H. Williams on the artwork, it's just going to be nuts.
Yeah. Definitely. See,
you know, if here's the thing. Here's the one thing is that, and it makes me nervous. This is another one of those things that a lot of us, anyway, have such fond memories of the Sandman and what it was. And it's been how many years since that? 25 years. By the time they release this new thing, it'll be 25 years since since Sandman #1.
Mm-hmm.
And will have been what, 13 or more years since they finished writing the last Sandman book. Will he be able to capture that again?
Yeah.
You know, can you? That always makes me nervous sometimes when they go back to, even if it's the original creators going back to it. Can you recapture that feeling, or is part of the problem going to be for those of us who have a nostalgia about it? You won't be able to capture it because we have a nostalgia about it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm really excited about it, and I also I'm worried I'm going to be let down.
Okay, so to potentially answer your question about that, I'm gonna just briefly talk about Before Watchmen, because I know you're not reading those, correct?
Nope. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm going to pick them up and trade. I mean, I tend to read them, but I don't want to buy them in singles.
Okay, so I am reading them currently, and not only, I mean, it's, you know, creative, the art, I'll say, on all these are really good, but the stories themselves. So again, it's kind of like it's the same exact situation, right? Except for the creator part of it. You have DC coming back to the Watchmen universe, and other people are telling these prequel stories to the main series, right? And so the same thing, you know, we read Watchmen back when we were was it junior high or high school that when high school? It was high school when that came out.
Right.
And so it's the same thing, you know, we love that series, and we come back to it now, you know, decades later with the prequels, and, you know, are we losing anything because of it? And I'm sure some people will say that, but I'll tell you what, the 4 issues that I've read so far, I think it enhances my appreciation for Watchmen because of how good the creative teams have, you know, how much good work they put into these prequel stories, and I'm loving this stuff. I'm glad I bought it. So anyway, that's a potential answer to your question about the Sandman.
And I understand what you're saying about that, but and here's for me what the difference is. If Alan Moore had decided to go back and write these things instead of the people that are doing all these books that are out right now, if Alan Moore had decided to go back to do these things, I would have been much more worried, quite honestly, about the Before Watchmen stuff than having these other people do it. Because expectations for me really low for the Before Watchmen stuff because of what an icon that Watchmen is. You know, how are they ever going to compare? How are they ever going to compare to that? So for me, the bar is really low. It would be much, much higher if it would have been Alan Moore that was writing these things, because my expectation would be is that he should be able to frickin' knock these out of the park can you uncork the bottle and release magic again? And so with Sandman, it is the original guy going back to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my expectation is really, really high. And so that's my trepidation and fear, is because my brain can't put the bar low. It's way up high.
Yeah.
And so if it doesn't meet that, I'm going to be going, oh man.
Yeah.
And then that'll be a bummer. But trust me, I'm way excited about this. I'm so excited about this that last week I went and ordered, because I don't want to read through my singles again, I went and ordered the newest printing where they've recolored the book of every single trade.
Really?
Bought them all one big giant lot.
Wow.
Me and the whole family are going to read them all. So this will be Ethan, my 14-year-old, who I generally don't let read any Vertigo titles and a lot of the Image stuff and whatnot. He's going to get to read this Sandman when we get those. So
wow.
Yeah, and he's pretty excited about it, because I thought, you know what, we got to hurry up and get these all read, and the last issue, the last trade 10, gets printed like in December, so we'll have had them all read in preparation for when this comes out.
Mm-hmm. That's a neat idea. I actually have all the trades, but I have various versions of them. Because they've come out with this edition and that edition. I don't know how many editions they have of each of these volumes. I think maybe I should sell back my current versions and do what you've done and pick up the latest collections of these. So, all right. Well, I obviously we're excited about that. I was actually thinking perhaps that you would be not excited about that, Travis. So I was surprised by that. That's good. Let's move on though, because we have a lot to talk about, and we may end up having to cut or to break these into 2 episodes again. Okay, so the next thing on my list is Marvel announcing the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. What the heck?
Yeah, what is that? Seriously, I don't even know what that is.
Well, so they have a bunch of their cosmic characters, including Rocket Raccoon.
So it's just anybody who's out in space?
Well, I'm sure that's not true. I mean, there are certain members of the Guardians of the Galaxy that they're putting into this movie, but it seems like such a weird. First of all, I will watch that movie.
I'm watching it for Rocky Raccoon.
Okay, but
I mean, hard to beat a raccoon with guns.
I know, but how weird of a
it's bizarre.
Decision on. I'm glad they're doing it, and I hope it's successful. But it's because before that it's pretty much a safe. They've made safe decisions. Spider-Man, Iron Man, maybe Thor and Captain America perhaps were a little.
Well, Captain America's safe. Come on, it's Captain America. Nothing else. He's iconic. Thor, I know, is iconic, but not in the same sort of way. To me, that was the risky.
That's true. Very true. But to go completely off the reservation to do a cosmic story like that with characters that are virtually unknown to anybody outside of comic fandom and obviously to some people who have been reading comics for a while, who are these characters? And my Guardians of the Galaxy are not the same Guardians of the Galaxy that we get now. That are going to be in this movie. Mine are from the late 70s, early 80s. That group of people. So this is just weird. It's just a weird thing to me. But here we are.
Do you think they're going to use like Nick Fury to introduce us to the characters in some way?
Maybe.
I mean, because otherwise this is a group movie. That you're right, is completely off the reservation. It has nothing to do with the Marvel Universe as far as the general movie audience and whatnot going forward. Heck, even casual comic book readers don't know these people. So it really is you're right. It really is bizarre.
Well, now, the only thing I can think of is that, the current Guardians of the Galaxy have ties to Thanos, which was introduced in the Avengers movie.
Sure.
So, but that's still a tenuous connection between, a very tiny clip at the end of the Avengers movie, and then moving on to these characters that nobody knows about.
Unless they plant some of those characters somewhere in the other movies that are coming out.
Sure.
Unless they have cameos in Iron Man 3 or whatever else is coming out, Thor
Mhm.
2 and Captain America 2 and whatever else they crank out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they
You
did.
think they'd already be showing us stuff about the Avengers too?
Yeah. Well, they also did. They did announce the Thor and Captain America sequel titles, but
Right.
I don't think that's news. But anyway, so they're doing a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. We'll see how that turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of movies, let's move back to DC briefly. Did you see the Superman, the Man of Steel movie poster that they debuted at Comic-Con?
Yes.
What'd you
I
think
like
of
it.
that? Yeah,
I like it.
really?
Yeah. What didn't you like about it? Everything.
I don't. You know what? Just based on the few images I've seen, I don't like that they're made his costume so dark. And
Yeah.
I can't stand all the heroes that wear quote unquote fabric as their costume, like Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man movies so far that we've seen, and now the Superman movie. They I don't know, it looks like this weird mesh
Right.
stuff.
But how ridiculous would they look if they were literally standing there in a unitard?
I know, but it's just
It doesn't look good on the screen. All you have to do is go back and look at all those TV shows that came out when we were kids. Spider-Man TV show, and
I
all
know.
that stuff. Quite honestly, it doesn't look good, and I can't imagine sitting there in your IMAX theater for those lucky people who get to go to those things and looking at the texture of a leotard.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
got-
I get it, but I still don't like it. I don't like the way it looks.
I understand what you're saying.
And the fact that it looks like all the superheroes get their costumes at the same damn place, which of course I'm sure they do. Okay. Oh, that reminds me. So in front of the Dark Knight Rises, they did a teaser trailer for the Man of Steel, and oh my God,
Yeah.
Travis, I cannot wait to see this movie just based on that 30 seconds.
Cool.
I can't wait. Okay. So let's move on from something that's potentially exciting to something that was really kind of, but well, I was going to say potentially mean, but the confirmation from Dan DiDio about the removal of Stephanie Brown from the Smallville comic. Did you see all that kerfuffle or read about that?
Stephanie who?
Ooh, man, don't say things like that. We'll get some
We'll
people,
actually get mail.
We'll get some. Yeah, that's right. Might get people after us.
Oh God. Yeah, that was a fiasco, wasn't it? I don't know if it was mean, but how did they? I just can't let something like that slip. That DC, not just or DC officially basically said that she's going to be in this book, and then to turn around and say she's not. And of all places to turn around and say she's not, to say she's not at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
They didn't learn anything from last year.
Yeah, it's like they keep making the same stupid mistakes.
I mean, it's like, holy cows. I mean, I don't know. I would have. I guess if I was editorial and went, oh, we should have never done this, but I would have went through with it, and if I really didn't like it, get her back out of the book as fast as you can. That way you could then kind of go, well, at least we satisfied you by having her.
Well,
even though she's never going to show up again. Do you know what I mean?
But the thing is, even if they had her in there, it's not like it's it's the Smallville comic. It's about Superman. It's
out of continuity.
It's one, it's out of continuity, and two, Batman and Steph Brown as Nightwing would only be in there for what, 1 or 2 issues, and maybe come back every once in a while. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. So for them to do that, and the thing that really bugged me, and obviously a lot of other people, was that the way that it was kind of, I don't know, denied, I guess is the right thing to say, because at one of the panels, I think it was Scott Lobdell, who said, no, he was the one that said, you're going to believe us or believe the art. But somebody said, man, I wish I would have pulled this up now that I'm actually talking about what someone actually said, was that, we never said that. We never said that Steph Brown was going to be in this. it wasn't an official announcement from them, but in fact it was to a certain degree because TV Guide was the one that first broke the news, and DC Comics sent us to that article.
Right.
So yes, they didn't actually, I don't think they actually posted it like on the source or something, but there it is.
Well, right. They posted a link to it, and at no point did they correct it. You would think if that was not the case, they would have went, "Oh no, that's not right." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was And so what is the beef with that character?
Well, that's the thing. Is
do we pin this all back on? Do we pin this all back on Dan Dio and go, it's him? He's had a beef with this character since the time memoriam. He wanted Robin dead back when she was Robin, and has just had a hate with this character since then.
But wasn't it Dan who greenlit Steph Brown as Batgirl in the first place from a few years ago?
Yes.
So
it was. So
I don't get that. If that's true, if Dio has something in it has something against Steph Brown, then why would he be behind her as Batgirl?
To talk more gossip, one of the things I found interesting is Gail Simone has a Tumblr account called Ape and a Cape or something like that. Mm-hmm. And okay, so at somewhere during the San Diego Comic-Con, Dan Didio or somebody says, we decided we needed a more iconic character in that place.
Oh yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, so we put Barbara in there instead. Well, then just after the whole Comic-Con's over and whatnot, I can't remember how long ago it was, Gail put there that she was talking to Brian Q. Miller, the writer of the Smallville stuff.
Yep.
And he said it was his choice to use Barbara.
Yeah.
He made that choice.
Yeah.
That Stephanie wasn't going to be used, and they went, who do you want to use instead? And he made the choice for it to be Barbara. It wasn't editorial thinking they needed the most iconic person. The writer decided, well, I'm going to use this character instead.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up too. So yeah, this is this weird PR mix-up thing that I really wish that they would get their act together at least when they're.
Well, I hope we're moving on to the next bad editorial PR thing they did at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, you'll have to probably bring that one up. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Or maybe I do. I just don't have it on my list.
Are we done talking about the whipping that Stephanie Brown's got?
Well, I do want to add there. Did you see the Bleeding Cool post about this? Rich Johnson saying that he thinks that there's something big in the works for Steph Brown. That's why they're doing it this way.
Well, it could be. It could be, and then they'll make everybody eat crow that had a big old hissy fit over it. Mm-hmm. Other than we'll all still be able to go, boy, did you handle this badly.
Precisely.
First thing they should learn to do is they should never let Dan, go to these things. I'm not saying the guy isn't excited about what he's doing. He's not very graceful at publicly executing what needs to happen. In my opinion, they need to hire somebody else. Somebody who, is quicker on their feet to more gracefully talk about what's going on than what he does. And he should be knowledgeable. He should be knowledgeable of everything. That's his job. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. It's just really ugly.
Well,
and just once again creates more and more bad blood between a lot of potential readers. I won't even call them readers at this point because I think a lot of them have jumped ship because of this kind of stuff, and that was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I had just this morning I was reading some stuff online about how one person, and I'm sorry I can't remember who they are now. Because I enjoy the article that they wrote, but they, when they found out that Steph Brown was coming on to Smallville, they went and bought all of the digital Smallville comics in anticipation of that, and was going to read all of them all at once.
Right.
And then this happens. So they're kind of, I think, ticked off about that. But bottom line with DC, they should be on message. They should have a message, whether we agree with it or not. They should go to these cons having a specific message in mind for, their various projects, whatever it is. For these contentious things like Steph Brown, like Wally West, that continually get brought up at cons by we fans, they should have something to say about it and be consistent about what they say.
Right.
So to avoid this kind of thing, that's just my, DC, this is my 2 cents worth. If you want to avoid some bad blood with your fans, do this.
Yeah.
Do not
well,
just
yeah,
off the cuff. Everybody's saying
Right.
their own thing here.
Right. And this really wasn't like it was a creator let something slip that they weren't supposed to or whatever, even really. This whole fiasco was top down.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like some, because in this day and age with all the Twitter, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure it'd be really easy as a creator to be excited about something and accidentally let something slip out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like at Emerald City Comic Con, 2 years ago when oh God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. What's the guy who's writing Earth 2 right now?
James Robinson.
Right. He was there. And
mm-hmm.
he let slip that he was going to be writing we thought he ended up not doing it, right? But he was going to be writing a Hawkman series.
Oh, that's
but
right.
No one was supposed to even know that. But he just got so excited, was so excited about things that were coming out that something slipped. This whole thing wasn't even that sort of a thing. It wasn't like
and in the moment revelation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This was a well-organized screw up.
Well, it certainly turned out to be that way, huh?
For sure.
Yeah. So what was the other news that regarding DC that you mentioned?
Well, who's Robin and who's not Robin?
Oh, that, yeah.
Oh, that. Okay, because I'm not a Tim Drake fan at all.
Uh-huh.
I could really. I get thumbs down on YouTube because of my lack of love for Tim Drake. I just don't care for the character in any way, shape, or form. I just really don't. He was Robin during a time when I really didn't read the books, and so for me, he really doesn't have a whole lot of value.
Oh, okay.
And so I could, from that perspective, from oh my gosh, how it's just destroyed the character by him not being Robin.
No,
that doesn't bother me.
No, it doesn't.
I
don't think so.
Yeah, but what bothers me though is editorially, that dude in the New 52 has been Robin up until San Diego Comic-Con, where they said, "Oh no, he's not."
Yeah.
There are pictures of him with Batman dressed as Robin. They're just in last issue of Batman and Robin. They refer to him as Robin. They refer to these are. They don't call him Robin, but they say these are all of my boys who wore the red and yellow or whatever it was. I mean, short of
specifically saying Tim Drake
short
was
of
Robin.
Somebody grabbing hold of Tim by the shoulder and going, "Do you remember when you were Robin?" Short of that, everything has said that he is. Not even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even subtly. It's not even subtly implied that he was Robin. I mean, it's just short of literally. I don't know. That was that.
Well, see, the whole
that just doesn't make sense.
To me, the whole thing is just really stupid, one way or the other, because whether he was Robin or he was Red Robin from the get-go, it doesn't matter. He was Batman's partner, so
right.
He was essentially a Robin. Why go to the trouble of saying no, he wasn't really a Robin when he was?
Now,
everything they've said indicates that he was a partner of the Batman. So why do that? Why go back?
And about the time that news came out, I was at fatigue level as far as the whole trying to keep track of the news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. That's something that Liddell said, right? He's the one that said, "Oh no, he wasn't Robin." I mean, did that get backed up other places too? Do you know?
I don't actually.
Yeah.
All I know is the furor behind it, because I actually didn't read that one. That I was introduced to by a bunch of people talking about it online. Actually, I think it was the conversation between you and Lee on Twitter that made me go, "Wait, what did I miss?"
Right, and I still don't. I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the character, so I don't care from that perspective. But I do care from if we're relaunching all this continuity editorially. Oh my God, get this stuff straight.
Yeah.
Because now it feels like
But I could still I understand them wanting to still tweak things as they go, because things probably aren't working as well as they thought they would in this particular issue. So let's tweak it a little bit and whatnot.
I guess I shouldn't have brought this up to talk about without knowing what the actual conversation was for him to make that statement and say no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true, but still, I mean, the fact that we all had this problem with Batman having how many Robins?
Well, yeah, right, too many.
Too many
Too many
Robins
for his age.
in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I remember reading something along the lines of at one point, and I don't remember who said this, but Batman has perhaps been working behind the scenes longer than that. Well,
they stated that. I mean, that DC
right,
stated that.
Right, but does that mean that also that Dick Grayson was working with him behind the scenes longer than that? So maybe the tenure of Robins is longer than 5 years. So I can buy that, but it's just ridiculous that they threw all these characters in initially, like they said, these many Robins in 5 years, and so now we get to San Diego Comic-Con with Tim Drake, and they're trying to backpedal and try and fit him in some weird way that doesn't work.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is you look at the characters and you think, okay, they needed to have been Robin for some significant period of time to have the skill sets that they have and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would think. Well, to some degree, they've fixed that with the new continuity in some ways, in the fact that, okay, so Dick Grayson, we assume, was the first Robin. Now, we've learned, was kind of trained without knowing about it through the Court of the Owls and stuff. So he had a certain amount of skill set, at least, I'm just saying, at least the combat skill set he had going into being a Robin to some degree, because he was being groomed. And then the other end of the Robin, spectrum, we have Damian, who since birth is being trained to be this uber assassin. Mm-hmm. So he's got a certain level of skill set without having to have hung out with Batman. What was Drake's skill set before, other than being smart, and supposedly, if the continuity is still there, him figuring out, just because he's a smart detective kid, figuring out who Batman was?
Well, I think you have to.
I think is bullshit.
You'll have to buy Teen Titans #0 coming out in
I
September.
don't think so.
Because wasn't the solicitation for that his origin?
I have no idea.
So I'll be reading it.
I have no intentions of picking it up.
I'll let you know then.
Okay.
And I believe the Red Hood and the Outlaws is also going back to talk about.
And he
Jason
was
Todd.
Robin too. Of course, he obviously wasn't a really good Robin because he got killed.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Okay, all right. Well, let's move on from that. I have a few more things. They're just really quick. Toss in your thoughts as you wish, Travis. Or do you have anything else you want to bring up about Comic-Con news?
There was other interesting little things. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out from more of the stuff that they talked about coming out of Image is going to be exciting.
So you're talking about the 13 new series that they announced?
Oh, there are 13?
13,
okay.
Yeah, or at least 13.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's on my list too. So yeah,
cool. Well,
lots of new books coming from them. Did you see also that Aspen is going to launch 10 new series in 2013?
Oh no, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. No word whatsoever though on Lady Mechanica, which is very disappointing.
That's probably a creator issue, huh?
Yeah, I mean it's all Joe Benitez, whether his schedule allows for him to work on that. But yeah, that's nice. Both Image and Aspen coming out with so many new things in the next year.
I noticed
or so.
that I was just reading an article this morning that the announcement out of San Diego Comic-Con that First Comics is going to be releasing stuff.
First Comics,
yeah.
Really?
They're going to they bought the rights to Miss Tree and are going to reissue the old stuff, and they're going to retelling the story. They're going to write it from she's aged. So whereas in the original she was a single mom detective with a baby, now the kid is going off to college. She's older, gray-haired, but still doing the detective thing in some sense or another. And they released some other books that are going to be coming out. They're going to package all of Bill Willingham's first work and put it out, and he's supposed to be writing some other stuff for them. Matt Sturges is supposed to be writing like 1 or 2 books for them, and one of them is like a, you know, it's been described as the 4 Norsemen of the Apocalypse, but they didn't actually title any of those books. But there's some more and more interesting independent stuff. Sounds like it's coming out.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of independent stuff,
Mhm.
and I know you had this, you threw this out there in one of your videos, the What the Fugue episodes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, what is an independent comic?
Yep.
Yeah. So, what most people, because I asked this question a long time ago too on Twitter. I just kind of threw that out there. You know, is Image Comics really considered an independent publisher anymore? But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But I believe that, you know, for the most part, people think of Image as an independent publisher. And the big news out of Comic-Con from Image, besides the 13 new series, was the announcement of The Walking Dead issue 100 and how many copies it sold. And
a bajillion.
And that goes to what you were asking too on your video. You know, considering that it sold 383,612 copies,
and is being reprinted. Yeah.
Oh yeah, probably a lot. They're probably going to have a bajillion variants now for that issue. So that, you know, regardless of what you think about independent publishers, that's pretty amazing for a non-DC and Marvel title to be hitting that mark.
Well, hell, even those, even of the big 2,
well,
it takes a lot of work for them to
true.
hit those numbers. Seriously, in this day and age, you know, this is the 90s where everybody's buying. Of course, how many of those books got bought on speculation would be curious, because I know I've heard stories about people going in and buying, you know, not just one of each cover because they want one of each cover for their collection, but going in and buying like every Chromium cover that's on the shelf at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true, because a lot of these sales are the variants that they had put out. So it's not just like they had one cover issue and it sold 383,000.
Yeah, but regardless from a marketing standpoint, pretty awesome. Awesome for it helps when you have a TV show.
Yeah, it certainly does not. Yeah, what would the sales have been if Walking Dead had not been a TV show and pretty fairly regarded, I think, for the. I mean, but the comic itself is great because I read that, but I read it in trade. So I'm more than happy to wait for that next trade to come out and I read issue 100. But it's a great comic, and the TV show, and I've only seen the first season. I haven't watched the second season yet, but it was pretty darn good from what I watched. You're still not reading that, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You didn't want to jump on at issue 100 and get your variant covers?
I really do like that Frank Quietly Granny cover. That's scary. I love that. That is a cool cover and frightening.
Yeah.
But no, I know something really absolutely crazy happens in issue 100.
Yeah.
But no, I'm probably gonna go back, and I'll probably go back and pick up the trades at some point and start reading them. But yeah, no, I have no intentions of picking that up in singles.
Oh,
I mean, like I said, it's cool for them. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's Kirkman? He's I don't know what kind of deal he has, but how much he makes off all this stuff with the TV show and the comic now, and because he's chief something officer at Image now too.
Right, and and he has his own kind of branched off line.
Oh yeah, Skybound.
Because each of those big name guys have their own little chunk of a secondary imprint under Image Comics. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, awesome for him. It's cool. It's cool that somebody's basically getting to do things, I'm assuming, at least as far as the comic book goes, his own way. He gets to produce what he wants to produce, the way he wants to produce it, and has been this successful. That's just awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I have 3 more things here. Well, 4 more things. Just real quick. The new Beware the Batman animated series that's coming out. I presume under the DC Nation banner. I might be wrong about that. But the interesting thing about that, Travis, did you hear that he's going to have a sometimes partner in the series in the form of Katana?
No, I didn't hear that it was a partner. I mean, I'd seen some original images back when they first started. Murmurs started coming out about this show, and I haven't seen the stuff out of San Diego Comic-Con. But that's awesome. I think that.
Oh, really?
Cool.
You like that idea?
Sure, because I'm all for it. I mean, with the cartoon, it's not like they're trying to stick to some sort of canon or anything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think open the door up as much as you can. I mean, I think that's a great thing. I think it's a great thing if they're going to put from a lot of different standpoints, put in some kick-ass, female character in the storyline. I think it's gonna be great. Yeah. Why not Katana? She's interesting. She covers a lot of areas all in one swipe, as it were. I mean, her being
all in one swipe.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
That was good.
Her being Asian, her being a female character, somebody else that non white guys can identify with to get excited about. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. I said it was interesting that they chose Katana over I don't know who, but some other character. So, but yeah, it's nice that they're not following the same formula of let's do because as I understand it, the new animated series is going to be early in his career as Batman. So, like they did with what was that one that they did before Batman Brave and the Bold?
The one where it was kind of the artwork made him almost look like Jackie Chan.
Yeah, and that too was
early on his career. I kind of like that show. I mean, I initially didn't, but then I started watching. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. But anyway, so they don't necessarily have to follow that formula. Oh yeah, he starts out in his career, and then in year 2 or 3, Robin comes into it, and then
right.
Yeah, we don't need to see that all over again. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There is a potential. The Batman Earth 1 just came out recently, and Superman Earth 1 Volume 2 was solicited just this month, I believe.
Right.
So now there was some talk of maybe doing a Wonder Woman Earth 1, which I'm fully in support of doing that. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
There was another one now. Besides Wonder Woman, there was I can't remember now. Did you see that news?
No, I didn't catch it at all. I didn't hear the Wonder Woman one.
There was some other character, and I can't remember who it was now, but to me it was like, I don't care. But
it was Aquaman, huh?
No. Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but it didn't impress me enough to write it down. So there you go.
There you go.
And then final Comic-Con news, they did talk about Grant Morrison's Multiversity that we've been hearing about for years.
Uh-huh.
And I believe it was DiDio that said next year.
Really?
We'll see something about that. So
we'll see something about it. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's my interpretation of what he actually said.
Sure.
Okay, anything else, Travis? Comic-Con related?
Nope.
Okay, last thing before we get to our talk about actual comics that we've read or didn't read, for that matter.
Right.
There was we talked. I don't know how many episodes ago it was, but we talked about the Comic Book Men, or our anticipation of what the Comic Book Men series was going to be like. And I think we were a little apprehensive about that, and I'll just say my apprehensions were proven true to a large degree, and I was not very happy with the depiction of either the staff at that store. Man, I would not want to go to that store.
No, not at all.
And shop there, and then
not
some of the customers that would come in trying to sell things. I didn't think that they painted our fandom and the industry in the best light. I'll just leave it at that. But you alerted me, what was it, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
To a similar program called Comic Store Heroes, which is about the people who work at Midtown Comics in New York.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just one episode out, and it's on the National Geographic channel, which weird, right? National Geographic doing this.
Well, yeah, no.
I don't watch a whole lot of stuff on the National Geographic channel, but it just seems like a weird pairing. But anyway.
Well, but the National Geographic magazine covers all kinds of stuff. It's not like it's just archaeology and dinosaurs.
Wow, I have not looked at a National Geographic magazine since I was probably 8. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Anyway, so I watched that. Did you watch that too, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I really like that. I especially enjoyed. So they highlighted a couple different people that are involved in comics, but not like employees of the comic shop. That's the focus of the show. And one of them is she goes by the Nerdy Bird on Twitter. And I'm blanking on her last name. It's Jill.
Oh dear. Yeah, I would have been able to tell you until you said that. Yeah, I don't remember.
Jill Pentozzi.
Yes,
that's her name. So she was on there, and I've been reading her stuff online for a while now. I follow her on Twitter, and I've read some of her articles and stuff, and so it was just really cool to see her portrayed in the way that she wasn't. She wasn't. I really like the way that the filmmakers, the producers of that show, put forth these. There was her, and then there was the one guy who was producing the one comic.
Right.
The Protector, I believe that was the name.
Protector, yeah.
Of the comic, right? And I really like that they showed the fandom in that light, as opposed to what we saw in Comic Book Man. So I really enjoyed that. I'll continue to watch that show. Hopefully they'll put out some more episodes soon, so we can partake in that.
Definitely.
Plus, Travis, how jealous are you that we can't go to Midtown Comics?
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Looks huge and so much stuff and
yeah, and spread out and that would be incredible. And really hard on my pocketbook.
Yeah, that's true. And part of the focus of the episode was them getting ready for the New York Comic-Con.
Right.
My God, I want to go to that one. Forget San Diego. I want to go to New York Comic-Con now.
Yeah, I don't. Like I've been saying for a while now, I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm more and more have less and less desire to ever even want to go there. I mean, the only reason I want to go there now is just say I was there. But nothing about it seems enjoyable. Whereas the New York one still looks huge, but still seems to have a sense about comic books. And so, it would be awesome to go, the Big Apple, where at least the two big companies originated from, right there, all that. Yeah, that would still be cool to go see, for sure.
Well, instead of going to Emerald City Comic Con, we should try to do that trip, huh?
Instead of?
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't think I could afford 2 cons like that.
Well, that plane ride to New York, falls under lottery winning or, many years from now after saving to do that. So.
Yes. Anyway, people should check that out if they haven't.
Yep, it's an enjoyable show. There was at no point there did I cringe. So.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it, because in Comic Book Man there were several times where I'm like, oh, that's not good. But this one wasn't. Yeah. It was very much. It was almost kind of a celebration of the industry and fandom for it.
Yeah, it really was. And I guess one of the big differences for me between the two shows is the Comic Book Men show was like Pawn Stars, except for just for pop culture and comic book memorabilia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it really was, besides those guys being kind of jackasses to each other and the brief moments of them, supposedly in the studio talking with Kevin Smith, the rest of it is, people coming in and trying to sell, these things,
mm-hmm.
which felt very forced and very planted and very worked out in advance to me.
Yeah.
And whereas the other one was just kind of, here we are in the store. These are the kind of people that come into the store. They ask some people some questions and they kind of, show us what the staff is doing, what their job kind of entails. And, one of the guys is a promoter, so his job was about the whole, Comic-Con thing. The other guy is a buyer and seller of books, so there was his little bit about him trying to find a particular book, and you get to find out about the owner and his love affair of comics and that, and like you said, kind of a cameo on a couple of the people who actually are in the store. So yeah, much more enjoyable in my opinion than the second.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk some comics now, Travis.
Cool.
And let's try to be brief on the new 52 wave 2, second wave, however you want.
Okay.
Do it. Let's just throw out our thoughts about these titles. Let's start off with Batman Incorporated, the return of that series.
Not getting it.
Not getting it? You didn't.
Not getting it.
You didn't read it number 1 either?
No.
Didn't read it. So why did you drop? Because you did read the previous volume of it, right?
Got to read one. There are a few issues in that irritated me, but yeah. I didn't like the way the book was billed to me. As soon as they said, Kramer versus Kramer with nuclear weapons, I was like, yeah, I'm out. For me, the letdown of the Leviathan strikes, which came out after the 52 was launched, but it was out of continuity or who knows what. Yeah. I still don't understand that, because it had Stephanie Brown in it. Anyway, and they expose who the Leviathan supposedly is, and that it's Talia. And to me, that was such a letdown. I was like, forget it. I'm not interested. So now I hear there's some funny stuff in it and whatnot, but to me, it sounds like what it comes down to is it's a punch up between Batman and Talia over Robin, and I just don't care. And I'm not a real big fan of Chris
Burnham.
Birmingham, is that his name?
Burnham.
I'm not a real big fan of his artwork either.
Yeah,
so.
me either.
So that the combination of the things, I like Grant Morrison. I like him doing Batman, but the combination of that stuff, it didn't have any appeal to me. So I guess if it comes down to it, this is me being brief, by the way. If I hear really great things about it, maybe I'll pick it up and trade. But as singles, it just didn't really have any interest.
Yeah. Well, I will say it's kind of lost its excitement, I guess, maybe that I had with the first volume of it. But it's still Grant Morrison, and sometimes he takes a little bit to get to the really cool stuff. And so these first 2 issues that have come out, I kind of think they're building towards something. And while your Kramer versus Kramer with nukes, there's that. Although I will say the issue 2, which really focused on Talia and why she's doing this and where she's heading and all that stuff, I actually enjoyed that issue. What I did not enjoy was there was one panel where basically Batman says something to Damian about your mother's basically mad at me. That's kind of the gist of it. And then they just kind of look at each other, badunta, which I did not care for.
Yeah.
So I can see your reservations there. That perhaps they're proving true, but I'm willing to stick with this and see where Grant is going with it. Although I will bring this up. When I was reading this, I'm thinking, well, how does this really fit into the New 52 universe that we have?
Right.
Especially with the focus being on the Court of Owls stuff in Batman. I realized that Batman was one of those characters and lines that DC basically said we're not going to mess with it too much because it's working. But how do you go from the Court of Owls, where basically Batman is almost defeated, to this idea of him having this army of Batman all around the world? And I'm trying to reconcile. I know it's comics, and Batman can be in 50 million titles in one month and do amazing things and never go to the bathroom. But at the same time, I kind of like to have some sort of semblance of reality, in here. So I'm trying to figure out where this fits in, and it doesn't seem to. It's
Well, I
still
know
its
some
own
people are
little thing
commenting on
off
the
to the
fact that
side.
it basically is Grant Morrison thumbing his nose up at the 52 and the
Exactly.
52 relaunch.
Exactly. That's kind of how it comes across. Not well, maybe not thumbing his nose, but it comes across as it's here, but it's sort of separate.
Yeah, they
And
should have just sold the thing. So they should have just sold the thing as an Elseworlds book from the beginning,
Yeah.
and not worried about it.
Yep, exactly. Out of continuity, just go with that. I mean, they obviously, you talked about the Leviathan Strikes as being out of continuity of the New 52. Why not just continue with that?
Right.
And because this is a finite story. Eventually, Grant's going to stop this and move on to something else. So just do that. Anyway, okay. That's Batman Incorporated for you. Dial H is next. I'm going in alphabetical order here.
Cool. I am picking up this book.
Yeah?
I just read issue 3.
Mm-hmm.
This came out a couple weeks ago. I love the covers.
Yeah,
The
covers are
bowling
nice.
covers.
That's ballin', right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There are parts of it I like and parts of it that I'm not sure about.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the book. I mean, I like our main character, and of course dislike him at the same time because I'm supposed to. I mean, because he's somewhat, despicable in a lot in some ways. So that's what a lot of people are saying, but I guess I'm okay with that. I don't have to be in love with the character to enjoy watching where his journey might lead him to.
Sure, exactly.
And so I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with him having, being fat and lazy and drinks and smokes and all that stuff. As long as they used all that stuff in an interesting way, I'm going to be okay with that and whatnot. I'm a bit confused by the bad guys that are in this other plot that's going on. That the latest issue just kind of, I'm going to have to reread it again because I'm kind of lost as to what the hell's really happening. Like I didn't get the memo that somebody else got or something. I don't know. There's like a piece missing, and it doesn't feel like it's a piece missing that they're going to fill in for me so much as I'm just supposed to go with it. And for some reason, it doesn't feel comfortable to just go with it. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm this book. I actually did not pre-order the next one for this month, which is issue 4 or 5. I can't remember now. Anyway, no, it would have been. I don't remember. Anyway,
0.
No, I did get 0. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did get 0. I decided that I would get 0 and drop it after that.
After that. Mm-hmm.
But then I read issue 3, and then we get the introduction of the female character.
Yeah.
Her name is escaping Manto.
Yeah, something like that.
Mantu. I don't remember how it's pronounced. And then suddenly I was like, oh, this might be interesting now. So I may have to pick up the issue after the issue 0 in September. And I believe I was looking at the October solicitations on Newsarama, I think it is, where they publish those, and the issue that comes after 0. I think that's the end of the first arc, and so I think I might get that.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll see. But I was going to drop this book because I just it's okay. I haven't particularly cared for it more than obviously I was going to drop it, so it didn't impress me that much.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did read online, somebody compared this, or not compared it. Somebody said that, and I think it's pretty appropriate. This reads more like a Vertigo book. Taking the whole Dial H concept and turning it into a Vertigo series. And I thought that was a pretty appropriate analogy.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, it's certainly not the old Dial H, which was kind of 4-colored, very simple kind of a story. It was never more than, any storyline was never more than like 2 issues long as a general rule. I didn't read the Dial H trade or miniseries that was out that I know like Lee has read and some other people have pointed it out and whatnot, that sounds like it might have had a little more to it than that. But I don't know if it's really I guess I can see that, but I don't think it's that extreme. For me, if it were to call it a Vertigo title, it'd have to be a little more unhinged than what it currently is. But.
All right. So let's move on to the next one then. Earth 2,
Mm-hmm.
the best of the bunch.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
There, well, there, well, so I've read issue 3.
Uh-huh.
Read up through issue 3. There's some things that have happened in the book that the way they were delivered, I thought could have been delivered better than what they were. They're kind of campy,
Yeah.
and cheesy, and those things I didn't care for. Like issue 2, the whole, oh look, it's the gay character of the DC universe. No problem with that whatsoever, as far as there being a gay character and it being who it is and all of that. But that whole dialogue between Alan Scott and his boyfriend just, to me, felt really uncomfortable. And it wouldn't have mattered what the sex of the characters were. That whole thing just bugged me to no end. And maybe that's just a personal with me. I mean, if I was sitting next to somebody on a train or wherever that was having that kind of a conversation and was that, kissy, lovey-dovey, it would just drive me nuts. So maybe that's just me personally. I don't know. So that part, and then in issue 3, where he gets his power, that felt a little over the top to me also. But as far as the world setting goes, the characters that they've introduced beyond that whole thing, I do like. I mean, I like this Flash. I already like what little bit we've seen of Hawk Girl. I already like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited because they implied that Dr. Fate is going to be coming up.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a video with Robinson where Robinson said, well, duh, you can't have this group of people without having Dr. Fate show up at some point. So I'm stoked for that because I like Dr. Fate. So I'm excited about that to see what what they have in store with Dr. Fate going forward and whatnot. The art is great. The art is perfect superhero art. I think. I even like the power source for the Alan Scott, Green Lantern character.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all cool and whatnot.
And why he has a power ring. I thought
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
Yeah, that part of it I liked. That part of it I did like. That part, but it just felt that whole scene though, as it was happening, just felt really heavy-handed to me.
Yeah.
It was just a little too cheesy.
Oh, I was okay with it.
But definitely, I like this book.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, it's in the first issue you have the big three, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, who end up dead by the end of the comic, and then the rest of this is building up those familiar old Earth 2 heroes in a new way. And so you get the Flash first, Green Lantern, we have Hawk Girl, and then, as you said, there's some others coming up, including Boo Wildcat. But we'll see what Robinson does with it. Maybe I'll end up liking Wildcat after this. But yeah, other than the fact that I can't stand the Flash's helmet, his costume's okay, but that helmet, I can't stand that. And the fact that I am so in love with Alan Scott's old Green Lantern costume. I know a lot of people don't like it. It doesn't make any sense. But I love that costume. For him to now be in basically a green suit like our Green Lantern, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. With a few
more frills, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sad to see that old costume go, I was kind of hoping that his costume would be, have some callback to the old costume. But anyway, that's just, those are minor things because I'm loving what the world building that Robinson is doing here. And as you said, the Nicholas Scott art is just beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm loving it. Good. It's the one comic I definitely goes. I have several, but they're a small group of in the total amount of comics I read every month. But the Earth 2 is definitely, it goes to the top of the pile to read. So unlike everything else in the second wave. So
right.
Speaking of which, this is one of the last things I read because that doesn't interest me all that much. Is GI Combat.
Never got it.
Yeah.
There are bits and pieces of it that interested me, but as a whole, I didn't.
You're not missing out on anything. So far, up through issue 3, they've done the war that time forgot thing. The American soldiers on Dinosaur Island
Right.
thing, which actually
Sounds
art-wise, I like that. But then they'd have the Unknown Soldier story, which I'm not particularly caring for all that much. And I was, when this was first announced, they talked about a haunted tank story.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, okay, yeah, because I love those old haunted tank stories from many years ago. So I was gonna get GI Combat and see how it went.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't got a haunted tank story yet. So I actually decided to drop this title as I was doing my order for this month. And then I read again. I'm going to go back to the October solicitations. I see that they're going to start a haunted tank story. So I'm going to have to pick that up just to see what they're going to do with it. But yeah, this is out of these 6. Boy. No, I won't say it's the worst one. There's one more that I think is the worst comic of the 6, and so GA Combat comes in at the second worst for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say it's not a bad comic. It's just I'm not
not
really,
your thing.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
interested in it. So okay, so I mentioned the worst comic, and that is the Ravagers. Did you get that?
Didn't touch that at all. I'm so dissatisfied with
my
the whole
God.
Teen Titan thing, and I just knew that was gonna, the whole culling thing. I didn't pick up any of that. I dropped the title right before that happened, and so I knew going into this. Initially, I thought, well, that might be great, and then I'm like, no, it's gonna spin straight out of this other basic, in my opinion, crap, and so I had zero interest in it.
Wow. Do you remember when we talked about this when they first announced this second wave, and we were looking at the Ravagers like promo image and who these characters were, and our hopes that this would be an interesting title?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not. This is I don't know. I feel really bad to badmouth it, but there's the characters are stiff. There's not much characterization. It reads a lot like a comic from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
In the way that the story is being presented and the way the characters talk. I don't care for it.
How's the art?
The art's not bad. The art's,
I kind of like Churchill. That was the other thing that we had drawn for him. Is I like him. I like the artist, but
the art's good. It's just the story and the characters are just there's nothing really appealing about any of them. Although I will say, one, I am interested in the Red Beast Boy. And I know he's actually going to be coming into the whole Animal Man and Swamp Thing,
of course,
crossover. And Ridge, I actually kind of like the character of Ridge, the armadillo-looking guy.
Oh, okay.
I don't care for Thunder and Lightning, and Tara she's just there, and Fairchild is again just there, constantly whining about how bad she sucks at being a leader. So anyway, move on. Let's move on. Don't buy Ravagers. Finally, World's Finest. So the companion book to Earth 2, sort of.
Sort of. Only because the characters are from Earth 2.
Yeah. But
I don't know. I'm not very happy with this book.
Really?
I want it to be more than what it is. I mean, the art's fine. I mean, George Perez art.
Well, and
hard to go wrong there.
And Kevin Maguire doing the flashback stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like anything's really happened in the book. We're 3 issues in, and they chased around this nuclear guy for 3 issues basically.
That's true.
And they basically repeat kind of to some degree the same dialogue. Their time is up there, says the bad guy. I'm going to splatter you, says the bad guy. Power Girl gets hosed by the radiation. Hunter spends her time hopping around, hoping she can get the one good shot in.
Mm-hmm.
Rinse, repeat.
That's true. That's exactly what's been going on in the last 3 issues.
Repeat. And that's just a bummer. I mean, part of me says, boy, it takes a good writer to write a comic that basically has the equivalent of, for people who don't know these characters, the equivalent of Superman and Batman in the book. How do you make those two work together when, one is, near invulnerable and super strong and all this kind of stuff, and one is, a well-skilled but physically normal human being, and how do they combat the same thing? So I think it's hard. I just can't, as a writer, I would think that's a hard story to write, I think, unless you would, do some things. And, we read the Huntress miniseries, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, it was straightforward, but I enjoyed it. And that was Paul Levitz, and Paul Levitz is writing this. He's the original creator of the original Helena Wayne, which was different than this character. But I don't know. It almost feels like Huntress is moving closer to being like that old Earth 2 Helena, as opposed to in the miniseries, she was a little closer to being like the Helena Bertarelli that they basically got rid of. She doesn't exist, which I think is unfortunate because that's the Huntress I like. And so I don't know. I mean, I want to like this comic because I like the characters, but I don't think they're giving us a whole lot. What do you think?
You pretty well summed it up, I think.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I especially like the flashback stuff the most. But yeah, what you said about Huntress is spot on. It's exactly what I'm thinking about. It's like it's weird because it's written by the same guy. So what's the deal there?
Well, I think he's sliding backwards. I think he's sliding back into when he originally created the character. And I think, if we go back and reread that miniseries, and we start reading it thinking it's one Helena, and of course by the time we get to the end of it, we know it's another Helena, and she started to change there, but I mean, definitely in this new thing, she's just, I think Paul's moving her back to, instead of, he said he was going to embrace some of the stuff of the newer version of the character. I don't think that's true. I think he's pretty much forgotten about the newer version of Helena and is moving her back to the old one.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. I'll tell you what though, I am looking forward, like I said, I like the flashback stuff that's in the comic. Probably the most, but what I'm looking forward to, I'm going to say this again, but the Zero issue that's coming out, to see them as Supergirl and Robin.
And Robin, yeah.
I wish we had more of that in one sense, because I love, mostly because I love their uniforms.
Yeah, they look cool, don't they?
They do, and to get this new Power Girl thing.
Yeah, it's awful. Give us back the boob window. It's got nothing to do with boobs.
Did you notice in issue 3 that we got that boob window back in that one panel?
Yes.
It's not her, she's not her costume, but that dress. Right. So, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't care about the boob window, but this Power Girl costume with that stylized P going down one side of her chest.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
That is a horrible design.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I love the Robin costume. That's so cool looking. Anyway, so I want to see more of that. But I love Robin in general, so
right.
Where my biases lie.
Yep.
All right, so there you go. That's our quick 1-2 at the wave 2 of DC Comics. All right, let's move on away from DC Comics. Let's talk. These are all independent comics. We're going to talk about Revival, The Massive, and Saga first, and then a couple other ones that Travis and I have read independently. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with Revival, which *1 just came out, I think, last week at the time of this recording. Maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't remember now.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Okay. And you and I had a very brief conversation on Twitter about this, this title.
Yeah.
So Revival #1. So Travis, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this announced at Emerald City?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Okay. So I remember, I remember being there, hearing that announcement. I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. Even though I was initially put off by, this whole idea of, yet another zombie book.
Shouldn't even use the zombie word with this book.
we'll get into that. Hold on.
Okay.
But then, so I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. But I might be, I don't know about this. But then I heard an interview with the creators on Word Balloon about it, and I'm like, based on their description and their excitement for it, I was like, yes, I'm going to pick that up now because it sound, but from them it sounded really cool and exciting and interesting. So I read it and I enjoyed it. I did, and what I said on Twitter about, I found it lacking. You were like, well, what did you find that was lacking?
Right.
Mostly it was, did you know by the time that we got to this, when the sister was introduced, that she was already turned?
Yeah, I guess that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was that. It was kind of like there were really no surprises going on in the comic for basically a plot where this event has happened and we don't know a lot about it and what's going to where is this going to lead to. I expected a little bit more, I guess, suspense, a little less telegraphing of things. Although I will say at that very end, that last fight scene, for lack of a better word or phrase, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I thought there were surprises in it. We kind of, you got the impression with the sister, with her situation where she was and the fact that she already seemed odd right off the bat. So that obviously raised the suspicions that she had already turned, and so that wasn't some big shocker. And so you're right, that probably doesn't work for the end reveal of the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than the line "Don't tell Dad," which I thought was kind of funny.
That was really yeah.
Because that's such a sibling kind of a thing. I mean, yes. You've got siblings, you know how that is. It's like you find out that the sibling's done some dumbass thing, and of course the first thing out of their mouth is well, don't tell. So you're stuck in that situation of okay, kind of stuff. But I don't know. I thought the whole murdered Zorse thing was kind of fun. Mm-hmm. The mystery of why it's dead. I don't know. I thought that was all kind of cool and whatnot. For a first issue, it introduces us to about a little less than a half a dozen characters and gives us some idea of what their position kind of is in the story, for us to move forward as far as the first issue. I mean, yeah, it wasn't no hair raising kind of a thing and whatnot.
I don't want people to think, and I don't want you to think, I enjoyed this comic.
Yeah,
I did. My nit is very minor.
Okay.
In comparison to the whole thing, I like the setup. I like the main character. I like the relationship, the somewhat adversarial relationship that she has with her own father.
Right.
And the fact that they're both police officers, although she's a town cop, right?
Yeah.
And
she's
a sheriff, and he's a sheriff, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have that dichotomy and that adversarial relationship for something that's happened in the past. So I'm sure that will come up some more. You have the sister, and of course you have the event, which is the dead have come back to life,
which has its own great implications and whatnot. And the fact that they're not zombies. It's not like they're some horrific mindless corpse. It's obvious. It's pretty obvious that each of these individuals, because they are individuals that come back, potentially deal with coming back in a different way. Based on, their prior being alive, I would assume. I mean, obviously, there's one person in this that doesn't deal well with the fact that they've come back.
Don't you, Travis? Don't you think that the scene where she keeps pulling her teeth out?
Oh God, that's awesome.
That is the creepiest part of this whole book.
Oh, it was great. I mean, the whole, hey kitty, what do you got there? This little barred cat has a tooth in its mouth, a human tooth. And you see the whole barn floor is covered in teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
She's been at it a while.
Well, yeah, her whole, I can't sleep at night because I keep feeling my teeth keep coming back in. She's pulling her teeth to get her. Ugh. Oh, that was great. I love the art. The art's great in the book. portrays everything right. You got all these other little mysteries going on. The I don't know, spirit alien thing that's running around at the beginning of the book. Then there's the whole global potential because they're all sealed off in this, because they don't want them, anybody getting out and stuff. I don't know. I'm excited by the book. I think it's unfortunate when people use the word zombie when it has to do with the book because I think the real stories that are going to be in this thing are, to some degree, are going to be just how do people deal with, one, if you're the person that comes back from the dead, how do you deal with that? And two, how do the people who have accepted that their loved ones are dead and now suddenly are walking around again, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
great potential for this book for the various stories that can be told. Yeah, definitely. That's the main reason I picked it up.
Another question is how did the sister die? She doesn't seem to know how she died or remember how she died. So there's another potential mystery and whatnot. So I think there's gonna be a lot to go on in the book.
I didn't get that impression that she didn't know. They just hadn't told us yet.
She says at the end, "I don't remember." Doesn't she say something about the fact that she doesn't remember?
Oh, maybe. I can't remember now myself.
She says something along the lines of, "I wanted to tell you," as she's healing back up. She goes, "I wanted to tell you, and I don't. I can't remember what happened," is what she says.
Okay.
And then she says, "Dana, don't tell Dad."
Yeah.
As she's standing there with the bloody sickle, slowly putting herself back together again. My question is the old lady dead?
Yeah.
Is it gonna take a brain hit to kill them off permanently, or is her head gonna slowly grow back on?
Yeah, good point.
That'll be interesting.
Yep. I'm looking forward to what comes next with this one.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay, next up is The Massive. This is Brian Wood's new book, and you're a big fan of his work.
Yes, I really, really enjoy what he does. His creator, at least his own creator-owned stuff, his original works. I definitely enjoy. I enjoyed both DMZ and Northlanders for their own, each of their own, stories that were being told and whatnot.
Right.
And this is no different. I'm liking this book. It's feels like it has a lot of reading in it in comparison to a lot of other comics.
Now, is that because of all of the extra stuff that they throw in at the end?
Well, it's not even the back matter. I mean, the book itself feels like, it's not just a few pictures and some dialogue and the comic moves along. There's always lots of information being put in there about the world.
Yeah.
Because obviously we don't know lots about what has happened to the world. So they have to kind of, they either filling us in with news clips or old footage or something to let us know wherever they're at, what has happened and what does it mean when all the oceans have raised 100 feet, and that sort of stuff in this kind of global and economic disaster that's happened. And so they're busy filling us in on that, what the environment is like, while also, trying to tell us about each of the characters that are in this. And there's half a dozen or so characters that they've kind of introduced in the thing. I'm on board. I'm on board for the thing. I mean, it's not riveting, but I find it very interesting. And I want to know what the writer has to say about the stuff and the mysteries that are going to come along the way.
So so I have a problem with this book, but I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
So what about? I mean, so the book is called The Massive, and really, The Massive is the ship that the characters of the book are trying to find.
Correct.
And so it's kind of like the Massive is always like out there, just beyond reach, so to speak. They get glimpses on the radar. They think that they hear radio transmissions from it, and so they're constantly going after this ship, because it's their sister ship out in the oceans.
It's their home. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you see any potential issues in that always being, either they keep it out of reach completely and tease us for however long this book goes, or eventually they find the ship and the story changes. Going with idea one, do you have any issues with that?
No, I don't, because I think there's going to be a lot to tell along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the what's out there, that is there where they're traveling to. It's the destination, but it's really, the story's going to be about all the stuff that's in between.
Yeah. Okay.
So whereas it's what's out there, but we're going to get this backstory of what they've been through and whatnot, and obviously, they're being sidetracked by having to go these different places along the way. That's not going to have anything to do with the Massive whatsoever. So no, I don't have a problem with that tease, with that being why they're there. I mean, otherwise they're really aimlessly wandering around. I think that's the way to explore the world and all these potential different stories that can be out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So another question for you then, because like I said, you're a fan of Brian Wood's work. You've read at least several different titles of his, and Brian Wood is a guy whose work I enjoy to a point, but I never seem to commit to buying his stuff. So I read a lot of DMZ because of you. You let me borrow that.
Right.
I tried to read Northlanders, did not like it. He also did Local.
Love that book.
Which was great. And again, you gave that to me to read, and so I enjoy that a lot. But so I've never been able to commit to this guy's work for some reason. There's just something missing about his work, and I can't really pinpoint what that is. I've never been able to figure out what about his writing that does not just grab me like other writers do. And so I'm reading the Massive here. So 2 issues have come out, right? So, not as we're sitting here talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And while I enjoy the background information, kind of like I was talking about with World's Finest, the flashback stuff. So we get a lot of tidbits of information as to what happened, not why it happened, but what happened.
Right.
And I enjoy that. I like that kind of stuff. But the main story that's presented as the present day story, I have no interest in it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that bugs me, because that's the story I should be interested in. I don't care that they're after the Massive, because I haven't been given a reason other than they want to find this ship and be with their shipmates to care for it.
Right.
And it reminds me a lot of the criticism that I heard about people who didn't like the TV show Lost, which I absolutely loved. In that there's always this kind of there's just stuff on the edges of Lost where we get hints and glimpses of what this is all about, and the writers and producers of the show would just kind of pull that away from us once they started to get close to it. And this happened for 6 years.
Right.
And a lot of people just gave up because they wanted to know why and what's going on. And for me, it was like, I don't care why and what's going on. I just am enjoying the ride.
Right.
And so I see this comic very similarly, except I'm not enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. See, I'm willing. I in a lot of Brian's books, I don't know if there's an instant payoff, for them. I guess I'm used to reading for the long haul. Local had, to a large degree, had kind of a quick payoff to some degree, because it really was just about a couple characters, and one character in particular for each issue, and the other stuff that I read, the payoffs were in 5-6 issues to get to a payoff. But I guess for me, I like the ride. I'm interested in, I guess, enough in this to see what's going to be said. But I can see where you're coming from. There are other people who either find it too dry or too wordy, or it doesn't have an excitement, I guess. For me, it's an interest so much as I don't pick the book up and read it and be excited about it. I pick it up and I'm interested.
Yeah.
And intrigued, but not excited. There's a different.
Sure.
For me, feel for the book.
Well, I'll give it a few more issues, because I tend to want to give a new series, at least 6 issues, or the first arc, whether that's 5 or 7 or whatever, however many issues it is, to grab me, to say, okay, I'll be with you for the longer haul. And 2 issues in, I'm not feeling it yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, and see, I kind of, here's the thing about the Massive. I think that might have been unfortunate that they did this. Before the Massive came out, in like 3 issues of Dark Horse Presents, before the Massive came out, in each one of those issues, they had a little short story about characters from the Massive.
Oh, okay.
So you got to see a little chunk of background history on our captain, who is now the pacifist. When he was still a mercenary, you get to see the event that basically changes his life. You get to see the second mate, the guy who was a mercenary, also along with him. You get to see him as a young boy, and some things that happen that inform him of who he is and why he's on the journey that he's on with the eco group and whatnot. And I want to say, I don't remember it right now, that we also got one on the first mate, that's off running around, chasing down the bad guys right now. We get a story on her and the captain's relationship earlier in their things. And if you read those, it gives you a little more on these characters and what their motivations are that you don't get from just reading these books.
So why not include those here?
I don't know.
Instead of the back matter that we get, which is somewhat interesting. It fills in some more gaps. But
back matter you won't get if you read the digital comic. That back matter.
Yeah.
When I sat in on the Brian Wood panel at Emerald City Comic Con this last year, there was quite a bit of discussion about this book and what he wanted to do with it, and that was one of the things, because he likes printed material, and he also wants to make sure that the book is around long enough for him to be able to tell the long story that he wants to tell, the long version of the story he wants to tell. And the only way you can do that, obviously, is if you get enough people buying it as a single, and not just wait for the trade.
Sure.
Because if you just wait for the trade, especially these smaller companies, it's not like Vertigo, where they can write it out because the company's making enough money on other stuff to write it out to the trade. So that material's not there if you buy the trade.
Well,
and I don't know. Maybe that stuff will be in the trade when the trade comes out. I don't know why they didn't put it in there somewhere to give us that. Like I said, I think that's because I've talked to some other people who aren't quite on board with the book either, and I think that information would actually be helpful to them to know that about the characters.
I'd much rather have that. I don't know how many pages it was, but have those reprints from the Dark Horse Presents in this book instead of the back matter that we get. We can always have that back matter in later issues, but get us into the characters. That's what draws me in. It's not. I'm kind of surprised that Dark Horse didn't put out a 0 issue, because they're doing that with a lot of the other books that they started out in the Dark Horse Presents, and they decided they're going to go to an ongoing with it, and so they're taking the stuff that was in the Dark Horse Presents and putting it out as a 0 issue before it starts. I don't know. Yeah, you know what? So this is a bit of a sidetrack, but I just realized that too, because I just started getting Dark Horse Presents with number 13, because Phil Noto was doing Ghost,
right,
on it, right? So then I see that I've ordered 3 Dark Horse Presents up to this point now.
Uh-huh.
And then I see that this month in previews they're soliciting Ghost number 0, and I think, oh, wait a minute, are they just going to reprint the stuff I'm reading already?
Yes, they are.
In the 0 issue? I'm like, oh, dang it.
Yeah, yeah. I would have known that. I would have told you that, because they kind of said that that's what they were going to do at Emerald City Comic Con. Because at Emerald City Comic Con, towards the end of the con, that Kelly Sue and Phil Noto had a conversation with Dark Horse, and at that point they decided, you know what, this isn't going to just be a small little short in Dark Horse Presents. We're actually going to go with an ongoing with this, you know, for X number of issues at least, and if that sells well enough, we'll just keep doing, you know, like 6-issue bumps of the thing. And then they said, like the next month, they said, you know, we're going to put this out all in a 0 issue.
Yeah. So so to bring it back to Massive,
they should have done that with the Massive.
I agree. I think I would have perhaps enjoyed this more. Well, like I said, we'll see. I'm with it for a few more issues at least, and we'll see how it goes. But
cool.
All right, let's talk about Saga. Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. What a joy this is to read. We're up to issue number 4 now at this point, and wow.
I've got 5.
What?
I've got 5. I went to the store.
Oh, you got 5?
And bought 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
so...
I have it ordered, so it's going to be mailed to me also. But I went to the store
wait?
and bought
Is that good? You could not wait?
Basically. I knew people were going to be talking about it, and I wanted to make sure I had it in my hands before people started talking about it.
Okay. Well, okay. So I'm looking forward to number 5 then.
Oh yeah.
But oh my God, what a fantastic comic.
Yeah. All around, to me, it doesn't feel like there's any failures in the book.
No.
You know, nothing falls down here. The writing's great. You know, the potential overall story is interesting. The characters are fabulous. The relationships that are in it are just, I mean, I think are just absolutely beautiful. The art is over the moon. I mean, as far as, you know, Fiona Staples just cranking out these, I'm sure that, you know, Brian K. Vaughan's giving her a basics, oh, we want something that's kind of like this, and then she's just going, yeah, absolutely nuts with the stuff that she's making.
Yeah.
You know, that she's cranking out and whatnot. I'm really dying to know issue 4, which of course we've all read now, right? Whose idea those characters were on the first page.
Oh my God.
The first page of each of these issues has been, you open it up and you go, what?
Yeah.
Every single issue. I mean, you know, the first issue were, you know, giving birth and the whole dialogue that goes on there in that first panel. I'm drawing a blank on anyway, they're just, I don't know. It's a great formula, I think. It seems to be every issue, that first page is a one panel splash page of something.
Yeah, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I commented about this on Twitter, and then also I just put out a blog today about Saga number 4, and yeah, I talked about that very thing, that splash page for issue number 4. It's like, oh, it freaked me out. It still freaks me out when I think about it. Could you imagine you're standing there, you know, you're a little taller than I am, you know, I'm 6'1", you know, so I'm kind of used to being taller than most people in the room, and I know you are too.
Yep.
But could you imagine standing there and you've got this head that is, I don't know, 10 times the size of your own, attached to a pair of legs that's as tall, almost awesome. As tall, if not taller than your body, looking down on you with this huge ass mouth, all the teeth. It freaks me out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then the rest of it, you know, because the character, the bounty hunter, the Will goes to this, I don't know, what is the Pleasure Planet, for lack of a better phrase?
Sex planet. Sure.
What do you say?
It's a sex planet.
Yeah, exactly. It reminded me of like an R-rated Risa from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And then so that you see these images of, you know, he's walking through and seeing all these sex acts basically, and then you get what happens with him and this pimp, which was really cool. But anyway, It's such a good book. I don't know
Yeah.
why anybody is not reading this book. And see, going back to what we were talking about with Brian Wood, you know, Brian K. Vaughan is one of those writers that just grabs me and pulls me into his story.
Uh-huh.
And he has such great characters, and he doesn't always do the expected thing or the normal thing to do in it, that kind of a story. The relationship between Elena and oh gosh, Marco, you know,
Yeah.
it's so delightful and refreshing to see that kind of a
It's
relationship
it's
in a
so
comic.
real. That's what
Yeah,
gets me. The dialogue they have. I mean, even I mean, I mean, not exactly. I mean, obviously, you're a father. I'm a father. The whole giving birth thing. Now, granted, our spouses probably didn't say exactly the same things that she said, but that whole kind of experience, it to me, it just felt. I mean, on those first couple pages, I was hooked because I'm like going, oh my God, despite the fact, yeah, she's got wings, he's got horns. It was so real. The whole birthing thing, just the stuff she said during it while it was happening. Like, to me, it was just the relationships. I mean, really, for me, that's what the book's about. It's about these different relationships and
yeah.
how they fold into each other and where they're going. Just incredible.
Well, and two, the ideas surrounding that, you know, because you get these fantasy images, you know, with the people with the wings and the ram's
Uh-huh.
horns, and so you get these kind of fantasy trope images thrown in
Hmm.
here, but set in a science fiction setting essentially. And
Yeah.
so you get these great fertile field of ideas of things to toss in, and and the people that have the monitors for their
The
heads.
TV head people. Yeah.
Yeah, all this stuff that just kind of thrown in there, you know, that helps build the world, but it's you know, visually so striking and interesting that you just can't help but go, what the heck am I reading? And I want more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. This is a book that needs to double ship. Oh, they keep this quality. And speaking of quality, the production of this book is amazing too. It has a back cover. It doesn't have an ad on the back of it. I mean, it's whatever color the cover is. You turn it over, and it's that same color clear across.
Yeah,
It just. I
it's
mean,
basically a
it's not that
blank
there aren't.
image. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
to me that's
unusual.
just gorgeous.
Yeah,
It's
and
just gorgeous.
and for $2.99.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, take our word for it. Those who are listening have not picked it
The
up.
only people
Go
I
pick
can
it up.
see not, yeah, the only people I can see not liking this book are people who don't like stuff that just gets a little too weird. I mean, I know there are people who've tried the book and aren't getting it. Who just think it's too weird, and
Too weird.
unfortunately, yeah, it's just too out there.
Oh,
They like the comics a little simpler than what.
okay.
And unfortunately, I've also heard there are people who have dropped the book. Issue 4 was too much for them.
What?
Yeah, it had too much gratuitous
Oh, yeah.
for their liking.
Okay. I can see that. I can understand that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you know, it's kind of like the whole.
Wait till you read issue 5, Eric. Wait till you read issue
Oh
5.
yeah. Cool.
Yeah, by the end of it, you're going to be going, what the hell? Yeah. Seriously.
Okay. But it kind of reminds me of our conversation a while ago about Catwoman. No, I'm sorry, not Catwoman. Voodoo. Well, Catwoman too, but you know, the whole thing where the Voodoo #1 was set in the.
Oh, they freak out so bad over the sex that they can't see the
Yeah.
story that's around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I can understand that, but it's still. I mean, that's just the setting. That's. I mean, yes, they can, and I think I was even the one that's like, well, you know, you don't have to show everything, even though it's set in a strip club, and they didn't, you know, because it's a DC main title.
Right.
They're not going to show
Right.
boobs and other things, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, but with Saga, it was like, I don't know, I had no problem with it because this is the setting and this is the part of the story in that setting. So, other than the head leg ladies at the beginning, I don't even know what to call them, but that freaked me the hell out. Everything else, I'm give me more. I want more. You're right. Double ship this thing. We should try and contact Fiona Staples and tell her that they need she and Brian need a double ship. See how she reacts to that. Anyway, okay, that's that's Saga for you. Oh, it's such a good book.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
It's probably, I think it's maybe even my favorite book of anything I'm reading right now. Over the one I'm
Yeah.
going to talk about in a second. Just
It's
overall, I mean,
definitely
it's just a beautiful book.
yeah.
All right, we have two more things to talk about real quick. One is a book that Travis is reading that I am not, and then another book that I am reading that Travis is not that we both want to talk about. So let's do yours first, Travis.
Okay. And this is Hypernaturals, and it is by Boom Studios and written by Dan Abbott and Annie Lanning, and that's really the reason I picked it up. I kind of like them as writers. They write Resurrection Man. Resurrection Man is getting ready to be canceled, and I thought, well, this new book was coming out. I kind of like the way they write, so I'd pick up this book. It looked like it might be interesting anyway, and basically, it had some surprises in it and some stuff that was kind of old trope that we've seen a million times. It's set in the future somewhere, some future Earth. Earth is ran by I believe they call it a Q-link is what it is. It's basically artificial intelligence is running the planet and pretty much everybody on it. And of course, when I first read that, I thought, oh man, this is just going to be, everybody against the alien technology. But no, it's actually not the case. Everybody's quite happy with the AI that's running it. It makes their lives easier, and functions and whatnot. And the story is there's this kind of group of superpowered individuals. Some people are born with hypernatural powers, and they gather some of those people up, and they're kind of like the universal police force to kind of help with whatever is out there. They one of the original teams, there's some flashbacks in this to an original team that comes up against a super intelligent hypernatural who doesn't like the way the world is working and wants to change all that. He's gotten a hold of some artifact that he can tap into the power to, and it gives him basically kind of the equivalent of ultimate power. During this fight with this old team, bad stuff happens and a chunk of the team dies, and then we're kind of moved back to the present time. And in the present time, they've inaugurated this new team. It's like the 100th anniversary of this new team of people. They've gone off to some planet to deal with some issue, and the entire team disappears. And so if this is the greatest, best team in the world that suddenly disappeared, the PR people are in a panic to gather up a new team to send there and try and fix what's happened. The new team consists of a couple rookies who've never done anything with their powers before, and some veterans from this old team. I don't know that I'm describing it that well, but and so they're going after whatever it is that's happened. You've got this other character on the side who was part of the original team. He led the original team that got devastated. He's now working some 9-to-5 job that he doesn't show up to. He obviously drinks and doesn't take care of himself, and that's part of the trope that I mentioned that we've seen a million times. He's sitting in a bar or whatever, and he's watching the news as this supposed new team, bad things have happened to them. So we can kind of see what's coming there. They're going to end up having to recruit this guy to help them out. So that part of it wasn't. I guess I didn't enjoy that part of it because that seemed like we've seen that a million times, kind of a deal. But our new heroes get to this planet and find out that it potentially is this bad guy all over again. It's kind of like the Legion if you take out them honoring the heroes from the past. So, but they aren't really superheroes. They're super powered, but it's more like, I don't know how I want to describe it. It's more like they're a police force of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
But the art is by Brad Walker and Andrews Gualardo, and it's enjoyable. It's a pretty decent setup. I mean, you can see where some of the stuff's going. But I like it. There's going to be some stuff in there that's different. When they get to the planet is a giant booby trap, basically, that kind of tells us, well, it doesn't tell us this supposedly super intellect that they beat a long time ago. It kind of implies that intellect is actually somehow he is manipulating stuff from his prison cell, and it's interesting. I don't know. It's hard to describe the book, but I'm enjoying it. It wasn't on my pull list. I just bought it off the shelf, but I did put number 3 on my pull list, and I'll be going to the store to pick up number 2.
Yeah, actually, I did read the Free Comic Book Day preview for that, and the fact that it's done by Abnett and Lanning, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to check that out. But I don't think that the Free Comic Book Day preview did enough to bring me in, and it was just a matter of I had to cut something from my order because it was getting up there just a little bit too much.
Yeah, I hear you.
And like I said, it didn't quite grab me enough from that preview to justify getting yet another book. But like I said, but the fact that it's Abnett and Lanning doing a sort of Legion of Superheroes thing, cosmic, futuristic heroes type stuff, I really, really wanted to get that. So I kind of like you said before about some other titles that we've talked about. If the buzz is good, I'll probably pick it up and trade, or maybe even try and find those back issues. So you'll have to let me know how that goes.
Oh yeah, I will going forward.
Okay, so last thing here that I'll talk about is I said Saga is probably my favorite book overall, but right now, man, I am so excited about this book, Danger Club, from Image Comics. This is so good. When I saw this in previews, it was basically my take away from that was sidekicks are left in the world, and what happens when that happens. So the issue number 1 basically it tells us that 3 months ago the world's greatest heroes, and we find out later in the series in issue 2 or 3, I can't remember which one now, but all of the villains that were willing to go too, they all left to fight what is described here as reality's ultimate evil, and they didn't come back. So all that's left are any of the, well, as we find out, not all of the villains left, because there's still one big guy out there, but what basically are left are all the sidekicks, the teen heroes, the kids with powers, and what they have to deal with. And you basically got all your usual superhero tropes. You have a Batman-like character, you have a Superman-like character, you got a magic guy, you got a guy with an eye patch who smokes a cigar, so he, that's like young Nick Fury. Sure. So you got familiar images and characterizations, but that's about it, because this thing goes. Oh, and let me back up just a second and talk about the art. Okay, first of all, let me back up yet again. So this is by Landry Q. Walker, who's doing the writing, and art is by Eric Jones with colors by Michael Drake. And I want to mention the colors specifically because Michael Drake does such a good job here. When they're like the second page of this, the first issue, the guy who does magic, and I don't remember all their names at the moment, but the kid who does magic has a magic wand, and he opens up this magical doorway to go from point A to point B, and it's like this red orange color, and everything else around it, as you see this magic door, is colored by it, as if it were a light, so the colors that you see are, I think, more reflective of how reality is. If you shine a light that's tinted red, everything around it's going to be red, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you see that, and you don't normally see that in most comics. The color artists don't normally do that kind of stuff, that shading or the the light effects. So I really like that about, and the colors are just, I don't know, maybe it's just the printing, but of this particular book, but the colors are so crisp and it's done very well. But as far as Eric Jones's art, if you look at it, you might think, well, it's kind of simplistic. It's kind of almost, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but almost kind of kiddie art. Because the kids they look like young kids. Well,
Right.
they are young kids, but you don't normally see young kids drawn as young kids in comics. But then you get into the story, and there is blood, there is mayhem. There are no punches pulled in this book. The first issue basically has the Batman-like character Kid Vigilante taking on the Superman-like character of Apollo, and shades of Dark Knight Returns, but Kid Vigilante beats the crap out of Apollo, but he had to use basically this magical what do you call those the things you put on your fingers, the brass knuckles, like magical brass knuckles.
Nice.
Anyway, so you get into that and I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening here, and Kid Vigilante, I think it's somewhat of a joke maybe, but he's the non-powered superhero, but he has a power, and like I said, I think it's a joke presented here, but it's not in a way, because his power is he's always right, and much like a certain
right.
rodent-themed vigilante that we all love.
Yeah.
But he realizes the big picture. It's they are the ones that are left, but that menace is still out there, and he's trying to get everybody to be on the same page, to get together, to get prepared, because they're going to have to go fight that fight. And so that's basically what's happening. But along the way, there are obstacles, like Apollo was amassing for amusement. He was amassing a group of superpowered kids, wasting his time doing that, becoming like the god of these kids, and Kid Vigilante comes in there and screws everything up for him. And there's some other things going along the way in issue 2 and 3. Eric Jones, again, the art, the pacing of this book in terms of panel pacing. There's a scene at the end of issue 3 that is just literally, I was like, oh my God, because it was he would cut from one character to another as these two simultaneous events are going on, and it was very suspenseful. And I've been reading comics for over 30 years, and I normally don't get a reaction like that. So it's just impressive that these two guys, or 3 guys, are putting this thing together as a whole. It's a wonderful read, and I can't wait to see more of this. It's really good. I can't recommend it enough. So.
And see, for me, when I read the solicitations and it was, it's the sidekicks, and what are the sidekicks going to do now they've been left for themselves? I was like, oh, I don't want to read that, because, I don't mind sidekicks. They have a purpose. But I was worried that it was going to end up being something stupid. That was going to be kind of a joke, the spoof,
Yep.
The outhouse that all the sidekicks from the Tick TV show had to hang out in.
Right.
What?
I forgot about that.
I love that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was hilarious. That was a hilarious episode. But I didn't want to. I guess I didn't want to see that again. I didn't want to see that trope again. So
yeah. Oh, I did. There was one thing I wanted to mention about this too that's also delightful. Every issue starts the very first page. When we talked about Saga, that splash page. Well, you get, well, I guess they're not splash pages technically, but you get 2 panels. One taking up the majority of the page, and then you have one down below that's a smaller panel. But it's presented in a way that is very reminiscent of Silver Age comics, and it's drawn sort of, well, I guess the coloring is more like that. It evokes that Silver Age sensibility, but the writing too, it's like the very first issue. It's showing all these these four characters, the one I mentioned, Kid Vigilante, the Nick Fury guy, and the Magic guy, and Apollo, and they're going after this monster-looking dude that's on the moon, right? And it says, "What's this? The Titanic teen trio replaced by the son of Zeus? Can this strange visitor from another realm stand against dun 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 the mysterious moon menace?"
Yeah,
You know,
nice.
it's very much like the Batman TV show type narrative.
Right.
Yeah, the stuff that they used to do. But the image that's shown here, this moon guy, is actually wearing those magical brass knuckles. So everything you see in the first page, not everything, elements of what you see in the first page actually play into the story that you're reading that's in present day.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's a wonderfully put together book. Anyway, I could go on and on about this. So Saga's number one, but Danger Club is really close to being number one.
Yeah. Here's the thing for me, talk about these independent books and whatnot. There's getting to be so many of those that are good that I'm going to start making some hard choices with what is my standard. I buy these from the big two.
Mm-hmm.
Choices are going to have to start. Yeah. I mean, I'm like most of us, I have a finite amount of funds, and, yeah, I'm going to start making some choices. The stuff that used to be my standards that I would get of my superhero comics, because I enjoy superhero comics and stuff, I'm having to start to look at those a lot closer, because there is such good and interesting stuff coming out of these smaller presses.
Yeah, definitely.
Heck, we could just talk, at the beginning of the show about the news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, these different companies that are announcing these other books. Even if only one or two of those books are interesting, of each of those different groups that were announcing new books coming out, that still ends up being 3 or 4 more titles to pick up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know about you, Travis, but we're coming up on the year of like DC's New 52. And I'm looking at cutting some stuff because, quite frankly, I'm getting bored.
Yep.
On a lot of these titles, and some of the titles that I'll stick with are only because I like the character or I like the creative team, or a combination of that. But or I know that something's coming up that is going to be really interesting, so I want to stick around for that. But there's going to be quite a few of those that I just cut, and I'm starting to do the same thing. I'm looking more and more at what Image is putting out, at what Dark Horse is putting out, what Dynamite's putting out, and maybe Aspen if those 10 new series are going to catch my attention. But anymore, yeah, I'm almost rather get stuff from the independent publishers as opposed to DC and Marvel.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's just it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my superheroes. I enjoy that genre. But right now, as a whole, no one's producing really interesting stuff in that genre.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I'm collecting some of those books as much out of habit as anything else. Not that they're bad, but they're not as interesting as some of the other stuff. Some of the other stories that are being told outside of the big two universes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, going to be some interesting choices down the road.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Anything else you want to add, Travis, before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. Well, make sure that you visit the Long Box Review blog. There's contact information there. You can leave comments there as well. That's at longboxreview.wordpress.com. And Travis, tell them again where they can find your YouTube stuff, your videos.
Yep. You can find my channel is Odd Fellows Thoughts. Just plug that into YouTube, and I should show up.
Yep. There you go. And Travis, I've praised the work that you and your son have been doing before, but you've been coming out with some interesting new things to do, which I'm kind of jealous about. Thanks a lot. But
Sure.
they're interesting, and people should check it out. Travis, thank you very much. We will talk again later.
Sure enough.
All right. Thanks for listening.